Hello there. What's going on, everyone? Today we're going to be ranking the Separatist Aces for Star Wars Armada. There's only the one Aces pack out right now, or rather Fighter Squadrons pack, so there's not that many Aces that actually exist, but I'm going to be ranking them in this video going from worst to best, and we're going to talk about why. A lot of that has to do with feasibility, price increase versus the basic squadron cost. We only have the 4 squadrons in game right now. Also, guys, if you are new here, don't forget to enter to win that giveaway for the $25 Amazon gift card. Yes, there is a new giveaway going on right now. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. Also, you can hop in Discord and talk about it with everybody there. And don't forget to let me know what you think in the comments section. But out of the 4, just in case, since I am ranking Aces, I also wanted to at least rank the generics. And as far as how much I like them overall, I like the Droid Tried Fighter the best, along with followed closely by the Hyena Bomber, then the Vulture Droid with the Bella Beloved kind of in last place. As far as just general, but that's not really a fair comparison because a lot of lists will want combinations of all of these. But as far as what I happen to like the best, I think this is kind of my overall generic order of the squadrons as a whole. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start off this list with number 7, as there are currently only 7. Now, obviously, this list is going to be impacted by future releases, and as we get more and more things and more previews of Wave 10, which might have an impact on this list, might not. But here's what we've got for at least for late February 2021. So coming in at number 7, in last place is the DFS 311 Vulture Droid Fighter Squadron. This is our most expensive markup over the base cost. Now, it's not the most expensive ace there is, but considering all of the base cost of squadrons and then what you pay to make it an elite version that's unique and has defense tokens, this one is got the most significant markup of a whole 10 points up from that basic 8 cost of what a Vulture Droid. So you could get a whole nother Vulture Droid and then have points left over, for what you're paying as a premium here to get this particular squadron. And so so why is that? And I'm not saying just because it's in last place does not make this a bad squadron. It's just my least favorite out of all of them. A big part of what you're paying for here, you're paying for a couple of different things. One of those things that you're paying for that's most important is your defense tokens. It's a scatter ace, and that certainly counts for something. However, it's worth noting that almost every ace they have, with the exception of Grievous, it is a scatter ace. So you're not getting something that's like super rare amongst the faction, but it's still nice to have. It's still nice to have the brace and evade. You're also upgrading, at least potentially, I would call it an upgrade. You're upgrading your anti-squadron dice here from blue to red. You still have the black, but you're going from blue to red. Now, that means you're also more likely to get a blank die because the blue die that you gave up didn't have any blanks. So there is that, but you also have that higher ceiling of getting a double hit, and since you have swarm, there is always that chance of being able to get it, but less likely to be accurate. So while it's technically a red die has a higher damage ceiling, so it's possibly a little more expensive than the blue die, it's not better in all situations. And then you've got a pilot ability here, and intel are the two things that this also gets. So you're getting a lot for those 10 points, but I don't think it's really worth it for a couple of reasons. So first off, the pilot abilities, while you're defending, if the attack is obstructed, you may force the attacker to re-roll a die of your choice. This is kind of like dodge 1. If you are, it's kind of like dodge if it's obstructed. Well, first off, that's a very situational ability. That's not always going to be the case. You're not always going to be obstructed. There's a lot of times you won't be, and so that's a once in a while kind of ability. Especially the way Vulture Droids tend to fly, you're not always going to be obstructed. You might granted, you could certainly impact your playstyle to kind of try and force that situation. However, it's just a sometimes ability, so that much isn't worth that whole much. I think that what really sets this one apart from all the other aces that are out there is intel. This is the only source of intel in the faction, and I'm certain that that's really why this has the most significant markup of any squadron here within the faction. And while that sounds great to have, Intel on here, and I can understand paying more for something like Intel, Intel's also been tremendously nerfed and now just gives grit to nearby squadrons at range 1. And I just don't think that this is a faction that really needs Intel quite so badly. Other factions like the Jedi, can use it a little bit better, just because you've got like that one ace that needs to get away, and they've got Anakin that can kind of get around that and stuff like that. But since it's going to be so common, I think, in a lot of builds, especially early in this faction's life cycle, to run a lot of Vulture droids, you have no problem just blowing through squadrons that come in to try to tie you up. So I just don't know if Intel is the best use of spending your limited 4 aces on one with Intel. Well, that's just and again, I think time will tell as we're able to play more physical games and get more competitive meta developing as more waves come out and hopefully more squadrons come out. We'll really begin to explore the value of Intel even more. But based on the little bit of Clone Wars that I've been able to play during COVID and everything, it hasn't been as much. I feel like a lot of the earlier, like that first wave builds for squadron specific builds are going to be very heavy on squadrons, especially with the Separatists having Vulture droids at only 8 points. They're going to be able to run an awful lot of those, and those are going to be designed to blow through enemy squadrons rather than ignore them. And so I just don't think that that's that great of an ability. But again, it can get better in the future. It can get better over time. But that's just where I put it for right now. Let's move up to number 6. It's going to be the Baktoid prototypes, another scatter ace. You are getting this one significantly cheaper, though, at only 16 points. This one is actually very, very cheap. However, I hate its ability. It's like a nothing burger of an ability, at least compared to other things. Really, it's not very good in my opinion. So it says, while attacking a ship, if another friendly squadron with bombers at distance 1 of the defender, you may change a die to a face with an accuracy icon. So unless you're activated by a squadron command, this ability is actually awful. If you're activated by a squadron command, it's got the potential to be okay. So the only way I really see this ability being useful is if you roll a double red and another die that's not damage. Right, so like basically a double red and a blank is like where you're like, okay, well now this, maybe you were going to brace that one, or maybe you were going to spend your evade against a squadron attack to force a reroll of the double. Maybe they would do something like that. But the chances of having a double and a blank are so slim. You're looking at very, very, very specific set of dice where this one actually is optimal. And I recognize that there could be times where a crit and your opponent maybe has a contain and no shields or anything like that, and so you're trying to stop the contain. I just don't really see that being all that likely. And the problem you're going to run into is when you do run into like a crit and a damage, and then what do you do? Do you really want to stop a contain and lose a damage for it? Most of those times I would say no, and just rather have the second damage. So there's almost, this is like one of the rarest abilities in the world to actually be useful in my eyes, but it's not as bad as our last one, because this one's only 16 points. That's only 5 points above the basic 11-point cost of the droid bomber, the Hyena class droid bomber. And so I think really where you're paying for that 5 points is just for your defense tokens. That's really, and that's not bad. But again, also you do have to consider you can't just run all the aces you want. So you're restricted to only 4. So do you really want one of your 4 to be one with an ability that's probably never going to work? Maybe it's, maybe you do. Maybe, and it's going to be situational. I think if you're running a bomber heavy build, there's value to this particular squadron, because if you're not running that many other aces, then sure, if you can afford the extra 5 points, definitely, because it's going to have brace and scatter and it'll survive longer. So even if the ability never triggers, it's still a bomber that's going to last longer, and that counts for something. Next up at number 5 is General Grievous, the only ace for the Belbalub 22. He has the most expensive squadron, so he's kind of like in the middle of this list. He doesn't do a whole lot. He's a little bit situational and a little bit awesome, but you're paying for it. So I have him a little bit lower on the list, also because he's the only ace that, while he does have defense tokens, does not have scatter, and that counts because he is going to die. Even with 2 braces, he's not going to live as long as some of your scatter aces. He still has screen, which the generic Belbalub has. He still has relay, although that is upgraded to relay 2 as opposed to relay 1. And I think that's part of what you're getting when you pay for this. Also, the Belbalub with the braces is nice. I mean, it's certainly better than, a generic Belbalub. But a generic Belbalub's 15 points. You're paying 7 points of a premium here. So he becomes, while he is the most expensive, he's 7 points more than your generic. And so really you're gaining 1 extra relay, you're gaining some brace defense tokens, and then you're gaining a situational ability. So let's talk about his ability, because that is potentially great and potentially nothing. While attacking a ship or squadron with no readied defense tokens, each of your crit icons adds a damage to the damage total. It's important to know here that this doesn't mean you can resolve critical effects. You don't gain bomber. He doesn't have bomber. Your crit's not going to deal a face-up damage card. It just adds one, kind of like how Darth Vader has that ability. But this, unlike Darth Vader's ability, this one isn't always on. You have to be attacking somebody that doesn't have readied defense tokens, which can sometimes work against a ship, can sometimes work against enemy squadron aces, but will always work against generic squadrons, as they don't have defense tokens at all, let alone readied defense tokens. So while he's awfully expensive, he's going to be very, very good at dealing with generic squadrons. And I say that this is more situational because maybe you go up against somebody that's only running 4 aces. We're likely to see a rise of like that mid-level squadron format. So you're likely to run into squadrons that squadron builds that are just running kind of maybe around 50 points of squadrons, and maybe they're just running like 1, 2, or 3 aces or 4 aces or something like that. And and then Grievous won't be good until late game. Also, if you really want him to work, especially well in those cases, he can't be part of a smaller to medium squadron build. It kind of is going to work a lot better if he is part of a massive squadron build. And that means, you're going to have to run lots and lots of fighters and have all of them activate first, kind of have him activate last, try to go for those scatter aces on the opponent's side that have hopefully already spent everything. Now all of a sudden he gets extra damage. Now, look, the damage complement is awfully nice here, right? He rolls a black die against ships. That's also upgraded compared to the generic Belbalub, so he can potentially roll 2 damage against a ship. He won't be face up, but it's still 2 damage. That's not bad. He's got a decent chance of that. Can potentially roll 6 damage against a squadron. That's also not bad. But it's just it's a little situational. He's a little tricky to use. And the last thing is there's also technically the opportunity cost of not being able to run Grievous as your commander. So, there is also that. DIS T81 is coming in at number 4. I do like the Droid Tri-Fighters. I absolutely do. And here's a real fun one. It's 17 points. He's 6 points above the 11-point base cost. And with both of the Tri-Fighter aces, you're upgrading your dice to actually be 1 of each color as opposed to just a red and 2 blue. So that much is nice. You're getting a little bit. It's kind of weird, right? It's not absolutely better, but it's potentially better because of Swarm, and depending on what you want to do with AI anti-squadron, if you roll those dice and you're like, I was activated by a squadron command. Oh, you know what? I don't get the accuracy. Let me add the blue. Like, I like having the choices. Or if you're going for like, I have to kill this guy, I need the extra the double red or something like that, you can kind of go for that and fish for it with Swarm also. The thing that's weird about this one is, while it's nice, and you, of course, it's another scatter ace. You're defending a tri-fighter. It's a little bit of an investment for, they're not super cheap, and they have only 3 hull, so having a scatter on there is really nice. However, the abilities that this one has that you're gaining above the generic tri-fighter are a little counter to each other, and certainly they make it more versatile. But at the same time, your attacks can't be obstructed, and so that means, like, that's kind of cool. You can kind of, like, basically you can hide on a rock and try to blast somebody with your multicolor rainbow attack, without losing a die, and so you're protected from them, but they're not really protected from you. But then he's also got snipe, and so, like, I get that you can, like, you can kind of hide from safety on an obstacle, and that's kind of what you want to do here. But snipe, you don't really need to worry. You don't need to hide with snipe, right? So when I think of somebody as snipe, I think of somebody just kind of staying back a little bit and then picking you off from a distance. But one of the things you gain by this guy is that better anti-squadron attack pool. Having one of each color dice is great, but if you're going to use snipe, you lose that benefit because snipe is just rolling blue dice. And so I'm like, okay, like, not being able to be obstructed is good for either option, but snipe is cool, but I'm paying for upgraded anti-squadron pool, but I'm also paying for snipe, and I can't use both of those at the same time. So it's not the most efficient, combination of ability versus the points spent into those abilities, but it also does make it a little more versatile. If you're able to get close and can still be on a rock, then you're protected, and then you're good to go. If you're not able to get close and have to shoot through a rock with snipe or something like that, you'll still be able to do that without it being obstructed. So it's versatile, but that's not always the most efficient use of points. So it's still pretty cool, though, because I do like the tri-fighters. So that's the DIS T81. Right kind of in the middle. Now we're moving up into the top 3. Number 3 is the other tri-fighter, the Flak Arfok. Yeah. Family-friendly channel, so I'm not going to repeat that name. Prototypes. This one is a little more expensive. You're certainly paying a little bit more for this one. This one is an 8-point upgrade, up from 11 points. So you're definitely paying a premium for this scatter ace. You're still getting that same die pool. You're still getting the scatter and the brace. Everything else here is pretty much the same. You're not a sniper, though. This one wants to be up in the action. It's going to be able to use those the red, blue, and black a little bit more efficiently. and the beauty here is people are going to try and stay away from you because you're going to have a lot more guaranteed damage with this guy. After an enemy squadron ends its activation at distance 1, that squadron suffers 1 damage. So, somebody, basically, you can tie people up. They will probably try and shoot you, and then they'll have a hard time doing that because you have scatter, and they'll take damage. So this one's great to pin down enemy squadrons. You have counter. They may not want to shoot you at all. Here's an ability that kind of, in my opinion, it's more efficient because it plays into what this ship wants to do. It's speed 5 with counter. It wants to jump into the middle of the fray, or at least pick off somebody kind of on the edge of the fray, force them to, hey, you're going to have to shoot me now, and when you shoot me, you're going to take a damage at the end of your activation. On top of that, I have counter, and I can also just scatter and ignore your entire attack. Of course, it is possible that they roll an accuracy and lots of damage and just blow you up, but it's kind of hard to really facilitate that. Maybe a Grievous could do that if you had spent everything already. But this one, I just feel like the flow of the abilities works a lot better, and you're more likely to not have unused abilities on somebody like this. Number 2, the Horchal prototypes. Vulture class droid fighter squadron. This one is just one I really like. It's only 16 points. You're not paying that much more for it. It's still more. You're still paying 8 points, so it's still the cost of 2 regular Vulture droids. But again, you're getting your defense tokens. Always good to have. It's still got Swarm and AI Anti-Squadron, and it's still got the same dice profile as the basic Vulture class droids, but this one has a really nice ability, and it's before an enemy ship or squadron at distance 1 moves, you may perform an attack against that ship or squadron even if you are engaged. This is breaking so many rules, and I love it. It doesn't activate you either, and that's one of the things that makes this one so cool. Of course, this one is also going to definitely want to be targeted. People are going to want this one dead, because this one can move in there, obstruct a lot of things. Somebody's trying to move away. It doesn't care if you have intel or not. It's just going to be like, oh, you're trying to fly away? No problem. Boom, take that. Really, really good for harassing ships. You're going to get a lot of extra dice out of this one. I think a lot more dice than a regular Vulture droid would be able to get. And I'm really impressed with how this one works. I really enjoy it. And you're not missing out on anything too, because hey, you re-roll that red die against a ship. I love rolling red dice. The more red dice I'm able to roll, the better. This also works really well once all the squadrons are gone and you just have ships that are left over. Those ships are, you just park them. Park this guy next to ships. Do a squadron command, activate, attack that ship. The ship's trying to move. I get another shot on you. Next turn I get to move. So this one's going to be able to potentially shoot twice a turn, maybe even more than that. If there's a tight formation of ships, you could potentially fire 3 times a turn. It's kind of, there's probably cases where we could line it up to where we could imagine it maybe getting 4 shots in a turn, but that's unrealistic. 3 shots a turn is potentially possible. Maybe not every turn, because people eventually will stop flying their ships close together if you've got this guy there and no squadrons to kind of to inhibit it. But it's really it's got a great potential, and even just getting 2 extra shots is still going to be really cool. Especially if one of them turns up as a double red. When somebody thought they were done and they're ready to move now, they've already spent their engineering, they can't go again. So I really enjoy this one, and of course I do love red dice, so I am a little bit biased. All right, the number 1 DBS 404. It's a bomber. Again, like bombers are great. This one is especially good. Again, 17 points. It's 6 points up from the 11 base cost of the bomber. We talked about how it's good for a bomber just to have, brace and scatter. If you're going bomber heavy, you want bombers to live a little bit longer. That's already good. This one is gaining a really cool ability because it can have an extra die, and that's absolutely huge, especially if you're running a bomber command center, which I think would be a very good idea with red anti-ship dice. He's got AI battery 1, like all the bombers do, so if you activate them with a squadron command, which you kind of need to, you're going to get an extra red die. But this one says, while attacking, if you are touching the defender, you may suffer a damage to add a die to your attack pool of a color that's already in your attack pool. Now, if there ever is a way, and again, this guy is only going to get better as new secret tech and things come out. But if there's ever an officer commander or some kind of upgrade that allows your bombers to, throw a black die, add a black die to the die pool, I could see there being maybe a commander that messes with AI that potentially allows them to pick any color or something like that. If that ever happens, this guy gets even better. But even as he stands right now, without speculating on future tech, I'm looking at somebody that I'm going to be running this guy, and he's going to roll 3 dice. He'll take a damage. He can do that multiple turns, no problem, because I've got the scatter, and so here's somebody that isn't going to last forever. That's no problem. You're gonna spend a lot of attempts trying to blow this guy up. You're gonna want to try and get some of your engagements near the station if you can, so you can try to repair some of that damage. Maybe we'll see something that down the road that officers or tech or offensive retrofits or whatever that can repair squadrons. At least unique squadrons. There's certain things that let generic squadrons kind of come back, but yeah, there's all kinds of different ways to potentially keep this guy alive even longer. But I love the whole design of this card. I love the capability of getting 3 red, especially since he's not going to work with the Invisible Hand title. As much as I wanted him to be able to be deployed with Invisible Hand, even when you combine Rapid Launch Bays with it, he can still be carried on board the same ship. But I know, and enough people have pointed out to me how I was incorrect on my Rapid Launch Bays and Invisible Hand combo, because it does state in the rules that if a card sets aside something, only that card can be the way that it goes back in. So, it's spelled out in the rules. I was a little overzealous and didn't quite see that, but still, like, ever since, thinking about that, I'm like, oh, I've got to have 3 red. 3 red against a ship. That's absolutely insane. So run this guy, run Bomber Command Center, activate him with a Squadron Command, make sure you're touching, maybe run Rapid Launch Bays, and wait until you're close enough so you can drop him so he's not going to be obstructed. I mean, just having this guy on board a ship with Rapid Launch Bays would be so terrifying to an opponent, that'd be really, really fun. So I love it. I love this particular guy, and I think we're going to see some more really cool stuff. I can't wait to see what's going on, and it's really funny to me too how the Clone Wars stuff has given me new ways to look at squadrons. And as a Armada player who has been vehemently anti-squadron over the years, I'm a little more excited about squadrons now, especially with the changes to intel and other things that kind of make me really want to. Maybe I'm just waiting for COVID to be over so I can get back to doing tournaments every other weekend again or something like that. But I'm really excited about it. Armada's a great game, and I'd love to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section. Hop in Discord. Let's talk squadrons. Let's talk Armada. Let's talk all the games. We've got communities for X-Wing, Armada, Legion, other board games as well. We've got contests going on. We'll do giveaways in there sometimes. So be sure and join the Discord. It can run on a browser, on your phone, as a PC app as well if you want. It's great community to be a part of. Also, check out other links in the description below too. We sell t-shirts, masks, all kind of fun stuff like that. You can check out Crabbok.com, get my AI expansion, and Patreon. Big thanks to my patrons. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. You guys are awesome. I want to thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.